Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to my first BookTube video. My name is Alice Blue. So I wanted to kind of start off a great start. So I'll be talking a little bit about the 6 pieces of literature that kind of changed my life and made me the author I am today, or the reader I am today. So my book tastes are going to align with whatever I talk about here, and I guess it's just a way of kind of introducing myself to YouTube. Hello. Okay, so if you love books, manhwa, web novels, manga, manhwa, if you loved any of that, you should follow me. I'll be making book reviews, manga reviews, web novel reviews, manhwa reviews as well. If you've read any of these books, comment below. What did you like about them? Did you like the same things I liked? Do you know any of these books? If you haven't, you can consider checking them out as well. Okay, so the first one on this list, shocking enough, it's a middle grade novel. It's The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And I read this book when I was really young, and then I read it again when I was a teenager, and again as an adult. I love this book. I love the idea of nature being magical, but not magic as we know it, but magic in the sense that it brings us back to life as humans. I know the author has some issues that when the book was written, she had some really bad ideologies, and it did show in her work, but you have to kind of appreciate, outside of all of that, the idea of a little spoiled girl who is very unlikable, very rude, and because she's been neglected all her life and basically doesn't fully understand the idea of love, and she goes to the countryside, isolated, dull countryside. It is described, when I was reading about this when I was younger, I didn't fully understand what the Moors were in the UK until I've seen them myself in Yorkshire. So it's basically a mass. Instead of fields and like greenery, you have like purpley flat everywhere. It's like rainy, dull, grim. And I think why I love such vibes or that kind of environment now is heavily because of this book. This book made me realize that sunshine isn't a necessity for you to enjoy nature. You don't need the sun for you to find the beauty in nature. So I have grown to really love thunder, rain, dull, dreary weather, because I find beauty in that now, as opposed to like a bright sunny day, which is also beautiful, of course. But this book kind of made me appreciate all types, all cycles, all seasons. And so I don't really have a favorite season. I'd say winter maybe, just because the aesthetics look, no, they're both equal to me. All 4 of them are equal to me. I don't have a favorite season, and it's because of this book. So this book follows a young girl. She goes to the countryside after her parents die. Her parents die, all their maids and servants leave, and she's left alone in this house for weeks. And she's only found because inspectors come and they see this like girl, and they're like, "Who are you? Why are you here? Everyone's gone. Your parents' servants are gone. No one cares about you." And she's shipped back to England. And I also saw the movie. She shipped back to England, and she lives with her uncle, and Archibald. There you go, I remember his name. And she meets like this sickly cousin of hers who is said to like, he's also a spoiled brat. And so spoiled brat meets spoiled brat, and they basically argue. She patterns him up and she tells him like, look, you need to go outside and play. So they start to go outside and play, and then they discover this secret garden that Mr. Archibald's late wife used to love to go, but it was locked and the key was like thrown away. They find the key, they find the door, thanks to a robin, really cute bird, my favorite bird till this day. And they start to like garden and bring this garden back to life. And Colin starts to like regain his strength, and he's finally able to walk. And it's like it's a very character like heavy book. And I think this book made me realize how important it is to watch characters grow and build rather than focusing on a grand plot. Because technically, I don't think the plot was basically they found a garden and they garden, and the uncle realizes how beautiful this garden is now, even though, and he overcomes his grief that he's had in his heart because of his late wife's passing. And I was just like, is that all? If I describe this book to someone, they'd be like, is that it? Is there more? But no, that's it. That's all I got. All I got was I got the pleasure to meet these characters and fall in love with these kids, and they became my kids and they became my friends when I was younger, reading in books. So I love this book, and it kind of, I guess, changed how I felt about books with heavy plots with no character work. Book 2, Reverend Insanity. So I found this book because when I was younger, I started to read a lot of web novels, Wattpad, fan fictions. I was on the internet and I stumbled upon Chinese translated works. The first one I found was Genius Dr. Black Belly Miss. I don't like now as I'm older, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But Reverend Insanity was one of the first truly long books that I committed to read, and I didn't even get to finish it because once medical school started, I kind of lost time. I lost my time, but this is the first book. Let me say that again. This is the first book that made me realize a villain main character works. Your main character doesn't have to be morally right in any way, because this guy does. I'm not going to say exactly what he's done, because if I say it, it sounds like the book is like for edgelords, because it happens over spans of hundreds and hundreds of chapters. So obviously the worst things he does worse and worse things, and even though it's spread out in the book, if I list them all to you, it's gonna feel like, oh, it's just torture, or this is just for weird people. I'm not gonna list them. You have to read it to understand why I like this character. So this character has one goal. He wants to achieve immortality, and he's in this world with these things called goo. Goo are basically, you can make them, you can find them in nature. Originally they were just insects, or I thought they were just insects, but they can be in any shape or form, and they basically allow you to cultivate them, and you can store them, you can find them, you can use them to grow your own power and your own innate ability, like cultivation wise. And there's a goo called the spring autumn cicada, which allows you to go back in time. So at the start of the book, the main character is being surrounded by like the forces of good, because he is the force of evil, and they're like, we need to get back this time travel goo. And so they try, but he makes himself explode. Chapter 1, the main character explodes, and he wakes up back in time in his younger self, and he still has this goo. So he decides, this time I'm actually going to get my goal of immortality. So he has lived for 600 years prior to his regression. So this is his journey now, with the knowledge of the future, with his experience in life, how he feels about people, how he feels about getting people's attention, getting people's love. Like, he becomes this kid, and even though he's humiliated on a daily basis, and you see how other children would normally react, he doesn't react like that, because he realizes that it's all meaningless. So this for me was like a reflection of Ecclesiastes. And I kept feeling, wow, I mean, I get it. I personally wouldn't condone his actions, for I wouldn't say that I am this kind of person. However, I understood him. I understood his philosophy. I understood what he was going for. I understood what he meant. He wasn't the kind of person to excessively indulge in things, but at the same time, he appreciated that there is a time for everything. And in the pursuit of immortality, he would give everything. And he acknowledges that he will have to leave behind the idea of love or the idea of companionship, and it's a very lonely road, but he has made his peace with that, and he's so ambitious and he's so charismatic. And I might never agree with his methods, but I would support him to gain immortality, as long as I'm not in the way, because I don't want to die. That's why I find this book amazing. It's one of the books that tests you as a person. How much are you willing to condone from a main character? And it allows you to understand writing isn't about writing characters people like. It's about writing characters people understand. So yeah, Reverend Insanity. Okay, book 3. Book 3 is another Chinese translated work, To Be a Virtuous Wife by Zhen. I'm gonna put the author's name on the screen. I struggle to pronounce normal English words. I am not trying to pronounce Chinese words. So this book sounds sus. 100%. If I recommend this book to anyone, they're like, what? To Be a Virtuous Wife? But from what I understand, from speaking to some of my mutuals, it is inspired by a book called Dreams of a Red Mansion or Dreams of Red Chambers, which is an older Chinese classic book. I haven't had the pleasure of reading it yet. It's on my to be read, because I understand it's inspired, but it's about this modern woman who wakes up in the body of a main wife of an official Chinese household, like the wife of I don't know if it's a duke or whatever. He's a prince, and this is her managing a household with co-wives in a succession war, where they could all end up being accused of treason, and they could all lose their lives in like the blink of an eye. So it's a situation of like, how does she deal, number one, with coming from a modern perspective of monogamy to sharing with co-wives, and also how does she deal with understanding that all these women are also just women who also only love one man. And there's another book similar to this, but because I read this one first, I feel like that one isn't as deep in my heart as this book. It's called The Job of an Imperial Concubine. I've seen a comment that says To Be a Virtuous Wife is if the main character met the male lead before he became king, while The Job of an Imperial Concubine is a book that if the main character meets the male lead after he becomes king. Because at the end of the book, they are both in love, and the concubines realize that, and they kind of step out they choose to step out and forgo the idea of love with their own husbands for the sake of the main couple's love. But the job of an imperial concubine, the main characters understand they can never love each other, or the female lead understands she can never give her heart to the king because he's the king, he's the emperor. He will forever have women, and she'll forever be a concubine. And it's that situation of, it's bittersweet because you can completely understand. There's no like big bad villain. There's a grander plot, obviously, but that's not the point. It's a character study, and I 100% appreciate books like that. And also the political intrigue is really good, and the harem intrigue is also really fun. I love when women are smart and scheming. Pandora Hearts. So this manga is my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite manga ever. I only have one volume in hard copy, and I can't even find it because it's somewhere in my sister's room because I wanted her to read it so bad. I haven't read this manga again since I read it years ago because I would cry. It's a dark fantasy. It takes place in kind of a version of England, alternate reality England, and it's about this young boy who, on his 15th coming of age party ceremony thing, he is ambushed. I think he's ambushed. His servant is killed, who's like his best friend. They grew up together, whatever, and he's ambushed, and he is kind of surrounded by these, like, I'll call them a cult. They're not really a cult, but you'd have to read to find out. And they accuse him of the sin of existing. His sin is existing, like that's his sin. And then he gets sent into this realm called the Abyss, which is like a realm parallel to our universe, where he wanders and he meets a chains in this world, monsters that you can form contracts with humans, and basically once you form a contract, there's a time limit set, and once the time runs out, the chain has to drag you back to the abyss, so you get dragged back down. It's like forming a contract with a demon. So he meets this chain called B Rabbit, and the chain forms a contract with him because she wants to find her memories, and they come back to the overworld. When the main character Oz comes back, Oz Vezelus, I don't know. Oz comes back to our reality, and he realizes that years have passed. I think it's something crazy like 10 years have passed since he went, but he's still in the body of a 15-year-old boy, but everyone he knows is either dead or grown up. And so it's a situation of him finding out these memories for this girl, because he promised, that's the deal of the contract, find her memories. And it talks about, it's a mystery where you find out about what happened like years and years ago, and who this girl is, why, like, Oz starts getting visions about this like guy, I think his name is Jack, possibly, but he starts getting visions about this guy, and then we start this mystery about this girl that used to be called Lacey. Who is Lacey? Why did the houses go to war all those years ago? There was a whole city that was destroyed and dragged into the abyss all those years ago. Like, what was behind that? And it's like this mystery is really dark. It's really, I love it so much. To me, I think it's a sad happy end. So I cried at the end, but I wasn't happy. Anyway, my favorite character is Xerxes Break. He was Undertaker before I met Undertaker. That's all I'm gonna say. I'd recommend this to anyone. It's not a very long manga, and I feel like more people need to know about it. I wish the anime got a proper reboot, because it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And the same author also wrote the Curious Case of Vanitas, which I have not seen or read yet, because I know that I am going to cry. I refuse. Okay, next book. Everyone knows. If you don't know Nana, you're not a woman and you're not in your 20s. Fine. Nana is a manga about two girls who are also called Nana, and they meet on a train to Tokyo because they're both moving to Tokyo for their own various reasons. And then they become friends, they live together, and their little circle forms, and it's the cutest thing ever. It's not completed because the author was going through some health issues, but she's still fine. She plans to continue the manga in the future. But this is such beautiful character work. I would say it made me feel seen, because there's not a lot of media is able to kind of talk about how women think and what we've been through and how we feel and why we enter abusive situations or toxic relationships that don't originally appear toxic but end up being toxic, codependent, abusive, violent, and it's like you feel seen. When I saw the anime, if I read the manga, I felt seen. I understood. I understood what the characters felt, and it made my heart break, because I knew exactly why they were doing the things they did, and I couldn't save them because there was no one. There was no one to save them. A lot of the characters in this book have this kind of strange mindset of your own. If whatever you do, I'm not going to stop you. And because of that, there's a lot of characters that go through a lot. For example, Shin is a 15-year-old who runs away from home. He joins one of the Nana's band because she wants to be like a punk rock, possibly singer, to chase her dreams. And he is a 15-year-old bassist, guitarist, but he sells his body to survive. And they all find out, but no one does anything. No one does anything. And even the person we meet, that one of his customers meets, like a 20-something-year-old girl who is in one of the Nana's boyfriend's band. So she's close kind of to the main cast. Now, my heart was just screaming, bleeding. I was so mad. Why is no one doing anything? Why is no one saving this child? But then I felt like, I guess in real life, no one would save this child. No one would see, like, because everyone is so busy and in their own lives and their own dramas that no one has time to save a child. And it's just like, God, if I think about it too much, I will just tear up because it's upsetting how realistic these people are. I hate that these people are real. Generally speaking, I hate it, but it's so beautiful. I'd recommend it to anyone, any day. This one, it changed my brain chemistry, but I can't say I fully understand it. It's called Kneel to Me by Jiangshan. So the problem with this novel is that I read the raw translations, which means there's no editing. So what I was reading, I was like, half of my brain was working overtime just to understand what was going on. But the reason I say this changed my chemistry, that the plot is not anything that I haven't seen before, but it's about this girl who wakes up from kind of a virtual reality and she realizes that her life was fake and that she's a prisoner. So in this world, criminals are forced to undergo punishment by being forced to enter a virtual reality simulation, and their lives are basically broadcasted. Their virtual reality lives are broadcasted for the world to watch, and the entire point of this is to show the world, like, look, these people are bad people, because in this virtual reality they do bad things. They still become bad people. But the issue with this is that in this world, the main character is always put in the prisoners or criminals are always put in a disadvantageous situation. Like, they're always in situations where they have a lot of trauma, or they're always like the underdog, or they're always put in a situation that forces their hand to be bad people, quote unquote. So the main character is like, that's hypocritical, because you cannot always put me in a situation where I have to do bad things, because it's impossible to stay healthy and good in these like situations, impossible to flourish, and then you're shocked I do bad things. What is that? So she's given a second chance. She ends up dying, obviously, and she's given a second chance to go through it. Like, she wakes up again and she's still in the prisoner, but this is before she goes through her virtual reality trial. So this is her story of her redoing these trials a second time, but showing the world, like, by force, that she's not a bad person. But the sad thing about this is that this is like a situation where there was no winning unless supernatural intervention. Without supernatural intervention, but that's not the point. What I loved about the story is the male lead. So the male lead is an NPC that she meets in every world, and his name was Aki. So he was this black-haired, very like plain-looking guy who just blends into the background in every world she goes to. But she meets him in every world, and in every world he falls in love with her, and she falls in love with him because she already knows him, and she actively, I think in the last one, is actively searching for him as well. I loved it that so much, because it's been a while since I've seen a book where the female lead, maybe the male lead falls first, but the female lead falls harder, and that's changed my writing completely. I started writing again this year, and I started with Princess Simulator. Princess Simulator has it's not the exact same concept, but a girl who basically goes from world to world, and she meets all these different people, has to do different missions and complete the missions. Right now I'm rewriting it for publishing. The first is Queen of Sheba. Spoiler, that's a spoiler. You probably shouldn't have heard that, because the readers don't know until the very end that she's a traveler. But she meets a character called Arthur in every world she goes to, and at first the reader meets like her love interest in all these worlds are different people, not Arthur. But over a time in the series, she's meant to always meet him, and she's meant to, like, he's always going to fall in love with her, but she falls harder and harder and harder until endgame. That's the whole point of Princess Simulator. And I feel like in every of my novels moving forward, I will always have a character called either Aki or Arthur, just as if to pay homage to this one to this one book that's not even fully translated because the romance changed me so much. So in all my books, you're gonna see a character with a name that sounds strangely like Arthur, and you're gonna be like, is he the male lead? Yes, he is the male lead. He's endgame. He's always gonna be endgame. No matter if she's married, we'll figure that out. She's divorced, we'll figure that out. So that's why this book changed me. It literally made the way I write romance so different. Like, Shiba, she's married to someone completely different, and Arthur is not. She doesn't even clock him. The entire book, she doesn't fall in love with him, but he does. The next book, she's like, haven't I met you? Why are you also in this world? Why are you in this new world as well? So it's that situation of like, she's always going, like, in the end of the day, he is her destiny, because if she's someone who doesn't have stability and she has to swap out people, swap out relationships, leave people behind, no matter who she's falling in love with or who she gives her heart to, which is also why my main character struggles to love her husband in the first book, because she knows she has to leave. She'll have to leave anyway, so what's the point? But she ends up relenting to feeling loved and loving him. Obviously it's going to be heartbreaking, but she'll have to learn to live with a piece of her, like being left behind in this world at all times. She has to just learn to live with it. And I feel like I love tragic narratives that are not like you're sobbing or someone dies. I just want you to feel like this is the end and we're happy, but I feel sad. That's the kind of vibe I love. If you do check any of these out, that'd be amazing. If not, fine, send me your book recommendations. I am currently reading Master of Recovery. I have an issue that the translation is not complete. It's only 200 chapters, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I'll get up to where I can, and then I will move on to the next book, because I wanted to reread Pandora Hearts. Would you guys want me to reread Pandora Hearts? Because you'll be seeing me crying on camera, but then I can do a full comprehensive review because it's really pretty. But yeah, thank you so much for staying, because this is quite a long video for a first video, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.